Welcome to the video. In this video, we are going to take a look at the field for this year's Arizona tip-off. And we will take a closer look at Northwestern's opening round matchup with the Butler Bulldogs. All right, let's take a look at the bracket for the 2024 Arizona tip-off Cactus Division. Got Butler and Northwestern meeting in Game 1 on Thanksgiving night, 6 o'clock Central on CBS Sports Network. And then the other game will have UNLV and Mississippi State at 8:30, or probably just 30 minutes after the Northwestern game, also on CBS Sports Network. And then the championship is on Saturday, again, CBS Sports Network, third place game also on Saturday. These games will be played at Mullet Arena in Tempe, Arizona. Now, let's take a little closer look at some of these teams. Got Northwestern ranking 61st in KenPom, 100th in offense, 39th in defense, and then definitely the slowest team in the field, 337th in tempo. Butler, 69th ranked, 60 more even, I guess, than Northwestern at 65 ranked offense and 82nd ranked defense. And then another fairly slow team as well, 261st in tempo. Mississippi State, definitely the best team in this tournament, ranks 24th on KenPom, 21st in offense and 35th in defense, 155th in tempo. And then UNLV will round out the field, ranking 91st in KenPom, 62nd in offense, 123rd defense, and then another fairly slow team to 244th in tempo. Here we'll take a look at those offense and defense ranks in the country for these four teams in the field. You see Mississippi State, best offense, best defense, closer to that top ranking in both areas. Northwestern, the defensive heavy team, you see them further up in the offense, down in the bottom right. Not necessarily where you want to be, but defensive heavy, so low on that y-axis. Butler, more the defensive challenge team, and then the offense has been pretty good, especially the shooting. UNLV, that one, you'd say they're definitely I'd say the worst team in this group. They're still solid, but they haven't necessarily played, or at least showed that they can beat the top teams. And they'll have Mississippi State in that opener, so that is going to be tough for them. Let's take a quick look at Mississippi State and UNLV before we really get into that Northwestern Butler matchup. Mississippi State, coached by Chris Jans, former New Mexico State coach, had a lot of success there. The one stat, as you'll see here on the turnover margin table that popped out to me is the turnovers. Mississippi State plus 39 so far, which ranks 13th in the NCAA in terms of turnover margin. So they don't turn the ball over and they create a lot of turnovers. They're sixth in steal percentage, and they have the fourth lowest turnover percentage on offense. So they really have been keeping great possession. They're 5-0 coming into this tournament, and they've got wins in their last two games over Utah and SMU. One thing, if you're a Northwestern fan, you might remember is they faced off against Northwestern in last year's MTE in Connecticut. Mississippi State did win that one 66-57. Something else I'd like to point out on this turnover margin is we'll get into it later, but man, Butler minus 24, tied for 339 in turnover margin. They had some really rough ones early on, but we'll get into that more later as we look into the Butler Northwestern matchup. UNLV ranking 91st in KenPom, as we said, probably the worst team in this MTE. 62nd in offense. The defense has been lacking, 123rd in the country in defensive efficiency. Coached by Kevin Kruger. They do come into this 4-1. Their one loss was to Memphis by 6 points, but they don't have any wins over a KenPom top 150 team yet. They'll have chances in this one, at least two of them. Well, definitely two of them. They're going to have to take care of the ball. They've done that pretty well so far, so we'll see if they can continue to do that against a team like Mississippi State, but they've really struggled on the boards. Their offense has been way ahead of their defense at this point. Now, as we take a look at where Northwestern is at this current point, by Coach Chris Collins, very slow tempo, pretty typical. The defense is way ahead of the offense, as it normally is with Chris Collins' teams. The defense is always the calling card. They've been in some dogfights recently. They barely beat Eastern Illinois, took overtime, barely beat Montana State. So that's kind of the thing with this. They can hang with anybody, but they can hang with anybody. They can hang with Purdue last year. They beat Purdue, but they can also hang with Chicago State, and they lost Chicago State last year. That's just the nature of how this team's been built the last few years, but they've been able to contend and they've been in back-to-back NCAA tournaments, so you can't really complain with that too much. They definitely need to shoot it better if you're looking at their shooting percentages. Not great, especially from three, but if we break it down a little more, we look at like Nick Martinelli's 8 for 12 from three on the year. 66%, absolutely on fire. Ty Berry, not bad at 38.5%, 10 of 26. It's some of the other guys that have really been bringing down those percentages. KJ Wyndham, the freshman, a very ugly 2 of 19 so far at 10.5% from three. Justin Mullins, 0 of 4. Luke Hunger, 1 of 7. So some of those other guys outside of the main scoring options really bringing down some of those percentages. So maybe the offense, we will have to look to getting it back to those main guys and getting them better shots. Now let's take a look at Northwestern's matchup for game one, Butler Bulldogs. 69th ranked team on KenPom, 65th offense, 82nd defense. And they're coming 4-1 with their only loss to Austin Peay, a shocker on November 8th. But here's the thing that I'm going to be curious about is Butler has not yet played away from Hinkle Fieldhouse, 5 straight home games to open up the year. So although it's not an away game, this will be their first game away from home. The stat that jumps off the page for Butler is the three-point shooting. They rank 16th in the country at 41.1%. And they've also had great three-point defense, ranking 12th at 24.3% from three for their opponents. Now, they haven't played the best opponents, but that is quite a crazy difference. And that has contributed to a ton of their success. And as we talked about earlier, that turnover percentage has really minimized the effect of that. Now, if we look at some of these guys that have been lighting it up for the Bulldogs, Iowa transfer Patrick McCaffrey, 50% from three, 16 of 32 so far. Absolutely incredible so far. Pierre Brooks, former Michigan State transfer, 50%, 12 of 24 from deep on the year. Jameel Telfort, 38.9%. Bizjack's the one guy who hasn't been shooting it that well from 3 of 14, but he is more of a creator. He leads the team, as we'll see here in a bit, in assist percentage, so he is more of the creator for all of these shooters. And Colby King off the bench, 50%, 6 of 12. Now, as we did mention earlier, those turnovers have been a massive issue so far for the Bulldogs. But there's a little bit more of a different story if we look at it by game here. Those first two games between Missouri State and Austin Peay were absolutely atrocious. 19 turnovers and 16 turnovers in those two. After those, it's leveled out. 11, 13, and 9. So not near as bad in those last three. So I wouldn't expect that to be a huge issue, although Northwestern is going to have to create some, and they do a pretty good job of that, I think, to have some success in this one. Here we'll take a look at this matchup. It should be a really close game. KenPom has it at a 1-point game, so this should be really interesting. And the Northwestern prevailing defense versus the Butler prevailing offense should be a great one to watch. It's going to come down to the three-point shooting of Butler if Northwestern can either get on the shooters or if they struggle to shoot in this location. So I think that's going to be the telling stat is how Butler shoots the ball from three and if Northwestern can shoot the ball well from three. Players that we'll need to watch for Butler, we're going to break it down 3 different ways: their points percentage, their assist percentage, and their rebounds percentage. So points percentage here is going to be quite what it says, where their points are coming from. So percentage of points, Pierre Brooks leads the way, 21.7%, Jameel Telfort, 19.9%, and then Patrick McCaffrey, 18.8%. So those 3 guys make up the majority of their points there. Those are the 3 guys that we'll need to key in on. As we look at the assist percentage, we see where the creation is happening. And that's where I mentioned earlier, Finley Bizjack, the guard, 24.3% of the team's assists. So although he's not shooting it well, he is creating for those shooters. Telfort second. He's kind of a stat stuffer, jack of all trades guy. If there's somebody that I would guess would get a triple double ever on this Butler team, it would be Jamil Telfort. And then finally, the rebound percentage. We get to see who's getting the boards. Andre Screen, he started 2 of the 5 games for Butler, and we'll see if with Nicholson, the 7-footer, if Butler will try to match. Andre Screen is 7'1", so he would be more of a match for Nicholson. The other option might be Augusto Casilla as a big there down, as you see, getting a little less time, but another option at that big spot. Patrick McCaffrey, forward 6'9", but not necessarily a big, not somebody who would be handling Nicholson down low. And finally, let's go to the keys. My 3 keys are to win the turnover margin, to get to the shooters, and hope that this first game away from Hinkle Fieldhouse might hurt those Butler shooters who have been shooting it so good. And then to let Martinelli and Barnheiser go to work. We don't necessarily need the threes from the struggling shooters as much, but shoot the open ones. I think if we can play through Martinelli and Barnheiser, great to have them both as options. And maybe get Nicholson involved as well. That will be all Northwestern needs to do to get the win over Butler on Thursday. Thank you for tuning in to another video. If you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what you think and if you think Northwestern can get it done in this MTE in Arizona. Go Cats!